Warriors and Valkyries, welcome to our Hall of Norse Tales. Before we embark on our journey through the fjords of imagination, don't forget to join our tribe. Ring the notification bell, raise your axes by giving a like, and leave in the comments which realm you're watching from. Now settle close to the hearth, for our saga is about to begin. As the pale light of dawn crept over the horizon, mist clung to the battlefield like a shroud, obscuring the carnage of the previous day's battle. Hildur, a Valkyrie of Odin's chosen, glided silently above the ground, her ethereal form barely disturbing the swirling fog. Her eyes, sharp as a falcon's, scanned the field for worthy warriors to escort to Valhalla. The clash of steel against steel rang out, drawing her attention. Through the haze, she spotted a lone Viking warrior, his broad shoulders hunched as he fended off two attackers. Hildur's breath caught in her throat as she watched him move with grace and skill, his sword an extension of his arm. "Come, you cowards," the warrior bellowed, his voice deep and resonant. "Face me with honor." Hildur drifted closer, captivated by his bravery. As if sensing her presence, the warrior glanced up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers for a fleeting moment. In that instant, time seemed to stand still. The Valkyrie felt a jolt of electricity course through her immortal being. Never before had a mortal's gaze affected her so profoundly. She watched, transfixed, as the warrior dispatched his opponents with swift, precise movements. As the last enemy fell, the mist began to clear, revealing the warrior in his full glory. His long, golden hair was matted with sweat and blood, and his armor bore the marks of fierce combat. Yet, it was his eyes that held Hildur's attention, eyes that spoke of courage, compassion, and a depth of spirit she had rarely encountered. The warrior knelt beside one of his fallen foes, closing the man's eyes with a gentle touch. "May you find peace in the halls of your gods," he murmured. Hildur felt her heart swell with an unfamiliar emotion. This was no mere brute reveling in bloodshed, but a man who understood the weight of life and death. Unable to resist, she allowed herself to materialize more fully, her feet touching the blood-soaked earth. The warrior's head snapped up, his hand instinctively tightening on his sword hilt. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice a mix of awe and wariness. "Are you one of the Asinjur, come to judge my deeds?" Hildur smiled softly, her radiance illuminating the gloomy battlefield. "I am Hildur, a Valkyrie of Odin. I come not to judge, warrior, but to witness." The man slowly rose to his feet, his eyes never leaving hers. "I am Leif Erikson," he said, bowing his head slightly. "I have heard tales of the Valkyries since I was a boy, but never did I imagine—" He trailed off, seemingly at a loss for words. "You fought with great valor, Leif Erikson," Hildur said, taking a step closer. "Your skill in battle is matched only by your compassion for your fallen enemies." Leif's cheeks reddened slightly at her praise. "I fight because I must, to protect my people and my home. But I take no joy in ending lives, even those of my enemies." Hildur nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Such wisdom is rare among mortals, and rarer still on the battlefield. For a moment they stood in silence, the air between them charged with an energy neither fully understood. Hildur knew she should move on, to continue her sacred duty, but something held her in place. Leif broke the silence, his voice softer now. Will I see you again, Hildur?" The question caught her off guard. It was forbidden for Valkyries to form attachments to mortals, yet she found herself yearning to say yes. "The ways of the gods are mysterious, Leif Erikson. Our paths may cross again, though it is not for me to say when or how." A shadow of disappointment crossed Leif's face, but he nodded in understanding. "Then I shall treasure this moment, and hope that the Norns see fit to weave our threads together once more." As the sun broke through the clouds, bathing the battlefield in golden light, Hildur knew she could delay no longer. With a heavy heart, she began to fade from view. "Farewell, brave Leif," she whispered, her voice carried on the wind. "May your sword remain sharp and your heart true." As she ascended back to the heavens, Hildur cast one last glance at the warrior below. Leif stood tall, his face turned upward, watching her departure with a mix of wonder and longing that mirrored her own feelings. In that fateful encounter, something had changed within Hildur. The seed of a love both impossible and inevitable had been planted, destined to grow and challenge the very foundations of her immortal existence. As she resumed her duties, Hildur knew that her life would never be the same, all because of a chance meeting with a mortal warrior named Leif. High above Midgard, in the shimmering halls of Asgard, Hildur stood at the edge of Bifrost, her gaze fixed on the mortal realm below. Days had passed since her encounter with Leif on the battlefield, yet his face remained etched in her mind, his voice echoing in her thoughts. The Valkyrie's heart, once steady and resolute, now fluttered with an unfamiliar rhythm. "Hildur," a melodious voice called out, startling her from her reverie. "What troubles you, sister?" Turning, Hildur saw Sigrun, another Valkyrie, approaching with concern etched on her ethereal features. "It is nothing," Hildur replied, forcing a smile. "Merely contemplating the ways of mortals." Sigrun's eyes narrowed slightly. "You've been standing here for hours, staring at Midgard. This is not like you, Hildur. Has something happened?" Hildur sighed, knowing she could not hide her turmoil from her perceptive sister. I met a warrior," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "A mortal named Leif." "Ah," Sigrun said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "And this warrior has captured your attention in a way no other has before?" Hildur nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension at finally voicing her thoughts. "He is different, Sigrun. His skill in battle is matched by his compassion. His eyes—" She trailed off, lost in the memory. Sigrun placed a gentle hand on Hildur's shoulder. "Be careful, sister. You know the laws of Odin. Valkyries are not to form attachments to mortals. Our duty is to guide worthy souls to Valhalla, nothing more." "I know," Hildur said, a hint of frustration creeping into her voice, "but I cannot shake this feeling. It's as if the Norns themselves have woven our fates together." As they spoke, a golden light suffused the air around them, and the thunderous sound of hoofbeats announced the arrival of Odin himself. The Allfather dismounted from Sleipnir, his 8-legged steed, and approached the two Valkyries. "Hildur," Odin's voice boomed, both terrible and beautiful. "I sense a disturbance in your heart. Speak true. What ails you?" Hildur fell to one knee, her head bowed in reverence. "My lord Odin, I fear I have allowed my heart to stray from its purpose." Odin's single eye seemed to pierce through her very being. "Rise, my Valkyrie, and tell me of this mortal who has so captured your attention." With trembling voice, Hildur recounted her encounter with Leif, describing his valor in battle and the unexpected connection she had felt. As she spoke, she could feel the weight of Odin's gaze upon her. "Hildur," Odin said, his voice softening slightly, "you have served me well for countless years. Your devotion to duty has never wavered. But now, I see the flame of love kindling in your eyes. Do you understand the gravity of what you feel?" "I do, my lord," Hildur replied, her voice stronger now. "I know it is forbidden, and yet I cannot deny what my heart tells me." Odin stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Love is a powerful force, Hildur. It has the power to reshape worlds, to challenge the very order of things. But it can also bring great pain and sorrow, especially when it spans the divide between immortal and mortal." Sigrun stepped forward, her voice pleading. "My lord, surely there must be some way to help Hildur overcome these feelings. Perhaps if she were to distance herself from Midgard for a time." Odin held up a hand, silencing her. "The heart cannot be commanded so easily, Sigrun. Hildur must make her own choice." Turning back to Hildur, Odin's eye seemed to soften. "You stand at a crossroads, my Valkyrie. The path you choose will shape not only your destiny but potentially the fate of Asgard itself. Consider carefully the consequences of your feelings." Hildur's mind raced, torn between her duty and the longing in her heart. What would you have me do, All-Father? Odin placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch both comforting and heavy with the weight of divine authority. For now, continue your duties. Watch over this life if you must, but do not interfere in his life. In time, your path will become clear. As Odin turned to leave, mounting Sleipnir once more, he paused. Remember, Hildur, that the greatest battles we face are often those within our own hearts. With a crack of thunder, Odin vanished, leaving Hildur and Sigrun alone once more on the edge of Bifrost. Sigrun embraced her sister tightly. "Oh, Hildur, what will you do?" Hildur gazed out over the expanse of Yggdrasil, her eyes seeking the realm of Midgard far below. "I do not know, Sigrun, but I fear my heart is no longer my own to command." As the light of Asgard shimmered around them, Hildur felt the weight of her forbidden feelings more keenly than ever. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and the potential for both great joy and devastating heartbreak. Yet, as she thought of Leif's brave and compassionate heart, she knew that whatever trials lay ahead, the journey would be worth it. With a deep breath, Hildur straightened her shoulders, ready to face whatever destiny the Norns had in store for her. The tale of the Valkyrie and the mortal warrior had only just begun, and its echoes would resound through the 9 worlds for ages to come. Days turned to weeks and weeks to months, as Hildur found herself inexorably drawn to the mortal realm. From her vantage point in Asgard, she watched over Leif, her heart swelling with each act of bravery and compassion she witnessed. Today she hovered invisibly above a small coastal village, where Leif and his fellow Vikings had come to trade. The peace of the morning was shattered by shouts of alarm. "Raiders!" came the cry from the village watchman. "To arms! Protect the village!" Leif, who had been haggling over the price of furs, immediately dropped his wares and drew his sword. "Form ranks," he called to his men. "We defend these people as if they were our own." Hildur watched, captivated, as Leif organized the defense. Unlike many Vikings she had observed over the centuries, he showed no hesitation in protecting those who were not of his clan. His blue eyes blazed with determination as he directed villagers to safety and positioned his warriors to meet the oncoming threat. The raiders, a motley crew of cutthroats and brigands, swarmed into the village, their weapons glinting in the morning sun. Leif stood at the forefront, his voice rising above the chaos. "Hold the line," he roared, his sword flashing as he parried a blow from the lead raider. "For honor and for those who cannot defend themselves." The battle raged, fierce and bloody. Hildur's hands itched to grasp her own weapon, to fight alongside Leif, but she knew she could not interfere. Instead, she watched, her heart in her throat, as Leif fought with skill and grace that would have made the greatest warriors in Valhalla proud. But it was not just Leif's prowess in battle that stirred something deep within Hildur. In the midst of the fighting, she saw him pause to help a fallen villager to safety, risking his own life in the process. Later, when one of the raiders begged for mercy, Leif stayed his hand, showing compassion where many would have shown only ruthlessness. As the last of the raiders fled or fell, Leif stood amidst the aftermath, his armor splattered with blood, his chest heaving from exertion. Hildur drifted closer, invisible to mortal eyes, drawn by an irresistible force. "Are you injured?" Leif asked a young village boy who had been caught in the fray. The boy shook his head, eyes wide with awe. "No thanks to you. You fought like Thor himself." Leif chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair. "I am no god, little one, just a man who knows the value of protecting those in need." Hildur felt her breath catch. In that moment, she saw not just a skilled warrior, but a man of true nobility and worth. She had escorted countless souls to Valhalla, but few had possessed the combination of strength and compassion she saw in Leif. As the villagers began to tend to their wounded and assess the damage, an old woman approached Leif, her eyes brimming with tears of gratitude. "You and your men saved us all," she said, clasping Leif's hand. "How can we ever repay you?" Leif shook his head, a gentle smile on his face. "There is no debt, good mother. We did only what any honorable warrior should do. The old woman peered at him curiously. There's something different about you, young man. A light in your eyes, almost as if you've been touched by the gods themselves. Hildur started at these words, wondering if the old woman somehow sensed her presence. Leif, too, seemed taken aback. I'm not sure what you mean, he said, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. But I thank you for your kind words. As the day wore on, Hildur continued to watch Leif. She saw him help rebuild damaged homes, comfort those who had lost loved ones, and share his own provisions with the villagers. Each act of kindness, each moment of quiet strength only deepened her growing feelings. That night, as Leif sat alone by the shore, staring out at the star-strewn sky, Hildur felt an overwhelming urge to reveal herself to him. She materialized just beyond the reach of the firelight, her heart pounding with an all-too-mortal rhythm. "Leif," she called softly, her voice carried on the sea breeze. He turned, his eyes widening in recognition and wonder. "Hildur? Is it truly you?" She stepped forward, allowing the firelight to illuminate her ethereal form. "It is I, brave warrior. I have watched over you these many months." Leif stood, his expression a mix of joy and confusion. "But why? Surely a Valkyrie has more important tasks than watching over a simple mortal like me." Hildur smiled, her eyes shining with emotion she could no longer conceal. "You are far from simple, Leif Erikson. Your valor in battle is matched only by the greatness of your heart. I have seen countless warriors, but none who embody the true spirit of heroism as you do." Leif's breath hitched, and he took a step closer to her. "Hildur, I've thought of you every day since our first meeting. I feared I would never see you again." As they stood there, mortal and immortal, the air between them charged with unspoken feelings, Hildur realized that she stood at the precipice of a momentous decision. Her duty, her very nature as a Valkyrie, warred with the undeniable pull of her heart. "Leif," she whispered, reaching out to touch his cheek, her fingers stopping just short of making contact. "You have awakened something in me I never thought possible. Your courage, your compassion, they call to me in ways I cannot ignore." Leif's eyes searched hers, filled with a longing that mirrored her own. "And you, Hildur, have haunted my dreams and inspired me to be a better man. But can there ever truly be anything between us? A Valkyrie and a mortal?" Hildur's heart ached at the question, knowing the immense challenges that lay before them. Yet, as she gazed into Leif's eyes, seeing the reflection of starlight and the depth of his spirit, she knew that some things were worth any risk. "I do not know what the future holds," she said, her voice filled with determination. "But I know that what I feel for you transcends the barriers between our worlds. Whatever comes, Leif, know that you have touched the heart of a Valkyrie, and nothing will ever be the same." As the waves crashed upon the shore and the stars wheeled overhead, Hildur and Leif stood on the threshold of a love that would challenge the very foundations of the Nine Worlds. The journey ahead would be fraught with peril and impossible choices, but in that moment, beneath the vast canopy of the night sky, all that mattered was the undeniable connection between a valiant mortal warrior and a Valkyrie who had discovered the true meaning of courage in the depths of her own heart. The golden halls of Valhalla echoed with the sounds of feasting and merriment, as fallen warriors celebrated their eternal reward. Yet Hildur stood apart, her thoughts far from the revelry. She gazed out over the rainbow bridge of Bifrost, her heart heavy with the weight of her conflicting emotions. "Hildur," a familiar voice called. She turned to see Freya, the goddess of love and beauty, approaching with a knowing look in her eyes. "My lady." Hildur bowed her head in respect. Freya's voice was gentle but probing. "Your thoughts are not here with us, are they? They linger in Midgard, with a certain mortal warrior." Hildur's eyes widened in surprise. "How did you—" "Love is my domain, dear Hildur." Freya smiled. "I can sense its presence, even when it blooms in the most unexpected places. Hilder's shoulders sagged, the facade of dutiful Valkyrie crumbling under the goddess's perceptive gaze. "I don't know what to do," she confessed. "My heart yearns for Leif, but my duty binds me here." Freya placed a comforting hand on Hilder's shoulder. The path of love is seldom easy, especially when it crosses the boundaries between realms. But tell me, what does your heart truly desire? Before Hilder could respond, a crack of thunder split the air. Odin, the All-Father, materialized before them, his single eye blazing with divine power. "Hilder," his voice boomed, "your distraction has not gone unnoticed. The time has come to make a choice." Hilder fell to one knee, her head bowed. "My lord Odin, Rise," Odin commanded. "Speak freely. I would hear your thoughts." Gathering her courage, Hilder stood and met Odin's gaze. "All-Father, I have served you faithfully for countless years. I have guided the worthy to Valhalla without question or hesitation. But now—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "Now I find myself torn. My duty to you and to Asgard is sacred, but my love for Leif, it has awakened something within me I cannot ignore." Odin's expression remained impassive. "And what would you have me do, Hilder? Release you from your sacred oath? Allow a Valkyrie to abandon her post for the love of a mortal?" Freya stepped forward, her voice diplomatic but firm. "Odin, you know as well as I do that love has the power to reshape worlds. Perhaps this is not a weakness, but an opportunity." Odin turned his piercing gaze to Freya. "An opportunity for what?" "For growth," Freya replied. "For both Asgard and Midgard. Think of the bridge this could create between our realms." Hilder's heart raced as she listened to the gods debate her fate. Finally, she found her voice again. "My lord Odin, I do not ask to abandon my duty. I ask only for the chance to follow my heart, to see where this path may lead." Odin was silent for a long moment, his eyes seeming to peer into the very fabric of fate itself. When he spoke, his voice was solemn. "Hilder, you stand at a crossroads that few have ever faced. Your choice will have consequences that ripple through the 9 worlds." He turned, pacing as he continued. "If you choose to pursue this love, you must understand the price. You cannot remain as you are, straddling the line between Asgard and Midgard. You must choose one realm or the other." Hilder felt as if the ground beneath her feet had vanished. "You mean—" "Yes," Odin nodded. "If you choose Leif, you must relinquish your status as a Valkyrie. You would become mortal, subject to the joys and sorrows of human life, including, ultimately, death." The weight of the choice before her was staggering. Hilder closed her eyes, imagining a life with Leif, the warmth of his embrace, the sound of his laughter. But could she truly give up her immortality, her sacred duty? "But," Odin continued, "if you choose to remain a Valkyrie, you must vow to put aside these feelings. You would continue your duties, but you would be forbidden from interfering in Leif's life in any way." Freya's voice was soft with compassion. "It is a heavy choice, Hilder. But remember, true love is rare and precious. It has the power to give meaning to even a mortal life." Hilder's mind raced, weighing centuries of duty against the depth of her feelings for Leif. She thought of his courage, his compassion, the way his very presence made her feel more alive than she had in all her immortal years. She began, her voice trembling. "I choose—" "No," Odin interrupted, raising a hand. "Do not answer now. A decision of this magnitude should not be made in haste. I will grant you 3 days. Use this time to search your heart, to be certain of your path." Hilder bowed deeply. "Thank you, All-Father. I will use this time wisely." As Odin vanished in another crack of thunder, Freya placed a comforting hand on Hilder's shoulder. "Whatever you choose, know that love is never a mistake. It is the force that binds the universe together." Left alone on the edge of Bifrost, Hilder gazed out at the vastness of Yggdrasil, the world tree that connected all realms. Somewhere far below, Leif went about his mortal life, unaware of the monumental decision that hung in the balance. The next 3 days would be the most crucial of Hilder's long existence. She would have to weigh the eternal glories of Asgard against the fleeting, precious beauty of mortal love. As the stars wheeled overhead and the fates themselves held their breath, Hilder prepared herself for a choice that would alter not only her own destiny, but potentially the very balance between the realms of gods and men. The 3 days granted by Odin had passed like a fleeting dream, and Hilder stood once more before the All-Father, her decision made. The great hall of Valhalla was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of feasting and merriment silenced in anticipation of this momentous occasion. Odin's single eye studied Hilder intently. "Speak, Valkyrie. What is your choice?" Hilder took a deep breath, her voice steady despite the tumult in her heart. "My lord Odin, I choose love. I choose Leif, and the mortal realm of Midgard." A collective gasp echoed through the hall. Freya, standing nearby, smiled softly, while other gods and goddesses murmured among themselves. Odin's expression remained impassive. "You understand the consequences of this decision? Once done, it cannot be undone." "I do." Hilder nodded, her resolve unwavering. "I am prepared to face mortality with all its joys and sorrows." The All-Father rose from his throne, his voice resonating with power. "Very well. Hilder, once Valkyrie of Asgard, I strip you of your immortality and your divine powers. You shall descend to Midgard as a mortal woman." As he spoke, Hilder felt a change come over her. The ethereal glow that had always surrounded her began to fade. She felt heavier, more solid, and for the first time in her existence she felt the beat of a truly mortal heart in her chest. Freya stepped forward, her eyes shining with a mix of admiration and sadness. "Hilder, you have chosen a path few would dare to tread. May your love be worth the sacrifice." As the transformation completed, Hilder looked down at her now mortal hands in wonder. The weight of her decision settled upon her, both terrifying and exhilarating. Odin spoke again, his voice softer now. "You have served Asgard well, Hilder. Though you leave us, know that you go with our blessing." He paused, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "And perhaps in time, you may yet find a way to bridge our worlds." With a wave of his hand, a shimmering portal appeared. Through it, Hilder could see the green fields of Midgard. Her heart leaped at the thought of seeing Leif again, this time as a woman of his own world. As she approached the portal, Thor, the god of thunder, stepped forward. "Hilder," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "you were among the bravest of our Valkyries. May your courage serve you well in the mortal realm." He pressed something into her hand, a small amulet bearing his hammer Mjolnir. "For protection," he murmured. Hilder clutched the amulet gratefully, tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you, all of you. I will carry the wisdom of Asgard with me always." With one last look at the shining halls of Valhalla, Hilder stepped through the portal. The sensation was dizzying, like falling through layers of reality. When her vision cleared, she found herself standing in a meadow, the warm sun of Midgard on her face. For a moment, she stood still, adjusting to the new sensations of her mortal body. The grass beneath her feet felt sharper, the breeze against her skin more pronounced. She took a deep breath, marveling at the richness of the scents around her. "I must find Leif," she murmured to herself, setting off towards the nearest village. As she walked, the reality of her situation began to sink in. She was mortal now, vulnerable to hunger, thirst, and the passage of time. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. As she approached the village, she saw a group of people gathered in the square. Her heart leaped when she recognized Leif among them, his golden hair shining in the sunlight. "Leif!" she called out, her voice cracking with emotion. He turned, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Hilder, is it truly you?" She ran to him, no longer bound by the constraints of her divine nature. As she reached him, She threw her arms around him, reveling in the solid warmth of his embrace. "It is me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I have come to stay, Leif. I have chosen you, chosen this life." Leif pulled back slightly, his eyes searching her face. "But how? You are a Valkyrie, a being of Asgard. How can you be here like this?" Hildur took his hands in hers, marveling at how different they felt now. "I gave it up, Leif. My immortality, my powers, all of it. For you, for us." The villagers around them murmured in confusion and awe, but Hildur barely noticed them. All she could see was the love and wonder in Leif's eyes. "You did this for me?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "Hildur, I don't know what to say." She smiled, touching his face gently. "Say that you'll have me, Leif. Say that you'll teach me how to live this mortal life, with all its beauty and pain." Leif's answer was to pull her close and kiss her, a kiss that sent shivers through her newly mortal body. When they finally parted, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to hers. "Of course I'll have you, Hildur. We'll face this life together, whatever it may bring." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, Hildur felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She had left behind the eternal halls of Valhalla, but in exchange, she had gained something far more precious: the chance to truly live, to love, and to forge her own destiny. Hand in hand with Leif, she faced the unknown future, ready to embrace every moment of her mortal existence. The descent to Midgard was not an end, but a beginning, the start of an adventure greater than any she had known in all her immortal years. The sun had barely crested the horizon when Hildur awoke, her mortal body still adjusting to the rhythms of Midgard. She had been living among the villagers for several moons now, learning the ways of mortal life with Leif by her side. Their love had blossomed, deepening with each passing day, but a shadow loomed over their happiness. As Hildur stepped outside the small cottage she now shared with Leif, a chill wind swept through the village. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy she recognized all too well. "Leif," she called, her voice tight with apprehension. "He's coming." Leif emerged from the cottage, his hand instinctively reaching for the sword at his hip. "Odin?" Before Hildur could respond, a clap of thunder shook the ground, and the All-Father materialized before them. His presence was overwhelming, even more so now that Hildur was mortal. "Hildur, once Valkyrie of Asgard," Odin's voice boomed, "and Leif Erikson, mortal warrior. The time has come to prove the worth of your love." Leif stepped forward, his voice steady despite the god's imposing presence. "What do you mean, All-Father? Haven't we already proven our love by the sacrifices we've made?" Odin's single eye gleamed. "Love that has not been tested is like a sword that has never seen battle. Its true strength remains unknown." Hildur felt her heart race, but she stood tall beside Leif. "What would you have us do, my lord?" "3 tasks," Odin declared. 3 impossible challenges to prove that your love is worthy of breaking the barriers between realms. The village square had filled with curious onlookers, their whispers a backdrop to this divine proclamation. Odin continued, his voice echoing across the village. "First, you must retrieve the golden apples of Idun from the depths of Helheim. Second, you shall tame the great wolf Fenrir, bound by the unbreakable chain, Gleipnir. And finally, you must sail to the edge of the world and bring back a single drop of water from Mimisbrunner, the well of wisdom." Hildur and Leif exchanged glances, the enormity of the tasks settling upon them. These were challenges that even the gods themselves would find daunting. "And if we succeed?" Leif asked, his hand finding Hildur's. A hint of a smile played at the corner of Odin's mouth. "If you succeed, your union will have my blessing, and Hildur's choice to become mortal will be honored for all time. And if we fail?" Hildur's voice was barely above a whisper. Odin's expression grew grave. "If you fail, Hildur, you will return to Asgard, your memories of this mortal life erased, and you, Leif Erikson, will live out your days never knowing the love you once shared. A collective gasp rose from the villagers. The stakes were unimaginably high. Leif squeezed Hilder's hand, his voice firm. We accept your challenge, Allfather. Our love will prevail. Hilder nodded, drawing strength from Leif's resolve. We will face these trials together. Odin raised his hand, and a shimmering portal appeared beside him. Then let your journey begin. Enter this portal, and you will find yourself at the gates of Helheim. Remember, you have but 3 days to complete each task. As Hilder and Leif approached the portal, an old village elder stepped forward. Wait, he called. You'll need provisions for your journey. The villagers, moved by the couple's plight, rushed to gather supplies. Food, water, warm furs, and weapons were thrust into their hands. Astrid, a young woman who had become Hilder's close friend, pressed a small pouch into her hand. Herbs for healing, she whispered, and a charm for protection. May the gods watch over you both. Hilder felt tears prick her eyes at the kindness of these mortals she now called family. Thank you, all of you. Your support gives us strength. Leif addressed the crowd, his voice ringing with determination. We go not just for ourselves, but for all of you, to prove that love can transcend the boundaries of realms, that it can unite mortal and divine. As they stood at the threshold of the portal, Hilder turned to Leif. Are you ready, my love? Once we step through, there's no turning back. Leif cupped her face in his hands, his blue eyes blazing with love and determination. With you by my side, I'm ready for anything. Our love has already conquered the impossible once. We'll do it again. With a final look back at the village that had become their home, Hilder and Leif stepped into the portal, hand in hand. The world around them blurred and shifted, the warmth of Midgard giving way to the icy chill of Helheim. As the portal closed behind them, Odin's voice echoed one last time. May your love be as steadfast as Yggdrasil itself. Your trials begin now. The couple found themselves standing before the towering gates of Helheim, the realm of the dishonorable dead. The air was thick with mist, and distant wails echoed across the barren landscape. Hilder shivered, not just from the cold, but from the enormity of the task ahead. The golden apples of Idun, hidden somewhere in this realm of death and despair. Leif drew his sword, its steel glinting in the dim light. We'll find them, my love. Together we'll overcome every obstacle Odin puts in our path. As they took their first steps into the foreboding realm of Helheim, Hilder and Leif knew that their love would be tested in ways they could scarcely imagine. But with each other's strength to draw upon and the support of their mortal friends behind them, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The trials of love had begun, and the fate of their future hung in the balance. With courage in their hearts and love as their guide, Hilder and Leif embarked on a quest that would become legend in both the realms of gods and men. The icy winds of Helheim howled around Hilder and Leif as they trudged through the desolate landscape. They had been searching for the golden apples of Idun for what felt like an eternity, though in reality, it had only been 2 days. Time seemed to twist and warp in this realm of the dead, and their mortal bodies were feeling the strain. Leif, Hilder called out, her voice barely audible above the wind. We need to find shelter. The cold, it's becoming unbearable. Leif nodded, his beard frosted with ice. He pointed to a dark outcropping of rocks in the distance. There. It might offer some protection from this cursed wind. They made their way to the rocky shelter, huddling close together for warmth. As they caught their breath, Hilder couldn't help but marvel at how different this experience was now that she was mortal. The cold bit into her bones, hunger gnawed at her stomach, and exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. I'm sorry, Leif, she whispered, her voice trembling. I never meant to bring such hardship upon you. Leif's arms tightened around her, his voice fierce with love and determination. Never apologize for our love, Hilder. Every moment with you, even here in this frozen hell, is a gift I wouldn't trade for all the gold in Midgard." His words warmed her heart, giving her strength. She looked up into his eyes, seeing the same unwavering devotion that had first captured her heart. "We will succeed," she said with renewed conviction. "We must." As if in response to her words, a haunting melody drifted through the air. It was beautiful, yet there was something unsettling about it. "Do you hear that?" Leif asked, his hand moving to the hilt of his sword. Hildur nodded, her senses on high alert. "It's coming from deeper within the cave. We should investigate, but cautiously." They moved further into the cave, the eerie song growing louder with each step. As they rounded a corner, they came upon a sight that took their breath away. A spectral figure of a woman, translucent and glowing with an otherworldly light, sat upon a rock, singing her haunting melody. The ghost turned to them, her eyes filled with an ancient sorrow. "Who dares disturb my solitude?" Her voice echoed, both in their ears and in their minds. Leif stepped forward, his voice steady. "We are Leif and Hildur, on a quest given to us by Odin himself. We seek the golden apples of Idun." The ghost's laughter was like breaking ice. "Odin's quests are never simple, mortal. Many have sought the apples, none have succeeded. What makes you think you will be different?" Hildur joined Leif, their hands intertwining. "Our love," she said simply. "It has already bridged the gap between Asgard and Midgard. We believe it can overcome any obstacle." The ghost studied them for a long moment, her spectral form flickering. "Love," she mused. "It has been an age since I felt such an emotion. Perhaps you are different after all." She floated closer, her cold aura making them shiver. "I will tell you where to find the apples. But first, you must help me find peace. My soul has been trapped here for centuries, unable to move on because of a broken promise. Mend what was broken, and I will guide you to your prize." Leif and Hildur exchanged glances. This was unexpected, but they knew they had to seize any opportunity to complete their task. "What was the promise?" Hildur asked gently. "How can we mend it?" The ghost's form shimmered with emotion. "In life, I was a shield maiden. I fell in love with a warrior from an enemy clan. We swore to meet at the Great Oak on the night of the full moon to run away together, but I was slain in battle before I could keep my promise. My love waited, not knowing my fate, until old age took him. Now we are both trapped here, unable to find each other in the vastness of Helheim." Leif's eyes lit up with understanding. "We must find your love and reunite you." The ghost nodded. "If you can bring us together, our souls can finally find peace. Only then will I reveal the location of the apples." And so, with barely a day left before Odin's deadline, Hildur and Leif set out into the treacherous realm of Helheim once more. They battled through icy storms, navigated treacherous crevasses, and faced the tormented souls of the dishonored dead. Each challenge they overcame together, their bond growing stronger with every trial. As the hours ticked by, their search seemed hopeless. But just as despair began to set in, Hildur spotted a faint glow in the distance. "There," she cried out, pointing. "It looks like another spirit, similar to our shield maiden." They approached cautiously, and indeed, they found the spirit of an old warrior, his ghostly form pacing restlessly. Leif called out to him, "Warrior, we bring news of your love, the shield maiden who could not keep her promise." The spirit turned, hope and longing etched on his spectral face. "My love, you have seen her? Oh, how I have searched these endless realms for her." With gentle words, Hildur and Leif explained the shield maiden's fate and led the warrior's spirit back to the cave. The reunion of the two ghosts was a sight to behold, their joy illuminating the dreary cavern with a warm, ethereal light. "Thank you," the shield maiden's ghost said, her form already beginning to fade as peace finally claimed her. As promised, I will tell you where to find the golden apples. Seek the oldest tree in the grove of eternal winter. There, guarded by the dragon Nidhogg, you will find what you seek. As the ghosts vanished, finally at peace, Hildur and Leif knew their greatest challenge still lay ahead, but they faced it with renewed strength and determination. Whatever comes, Leif said, taking Hildur's hand, we face it together. Hildur nodded, her heart full of love and resolve. Together, she agreed. Always. As they set out towards the grove of eternal winter, the bond between Hildur and Leif had never been stronger. They had faced the trials of Helheim not as individuals, but as a united force, their love a beacon of hope in the darkness. With each obstacle overcome, they proved not only to Odin but to themselves that their love was a force powerful enough to reshape the very fabric of the 9 worlds. The first task was nearing its end, but their journey was far from over. The dragon Nidhogg and the golden apples awaited, and beyond that, challenges yet unknown. But united in adversity, Hildur and Leif were ready to face whatever lay ahead, their love a shield against the trials to come. The second task set by Odin had proven even more challenging than the first. Taming Fenrir, the monstrous wolf prophesied to play a role in Ragnarok, had pushed Hildur and Leif to their very limits. Yet through compassion and understanding rather than force, they had succeeded in calming the great beast, if only temporarily. Now, as they approached the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree that connected all the 9 realms, Hildur and Leif felt a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. Their final task lay ahead, to retrieve a single drop of water from Mimisbrunner, the well of wisdom at the roots of Yggdrasil. As they stood before the massive trunk of the world tree, its branches stretching far beyond mortal sight, Leif turned to Hildur, his eyes filled with wonder. In all my years as a warrior, I never imagined I would stand before Yggdrasil itself, he breathed. It's overwhelming. Hildur nodded, her own awe evident in her voice. Even as a Valkyrie, I rarely ventured this close to the world tree. Its power is beyond comprehension. As they began their ascent, climbing the gnarled roots that twisted and turned like a labyrinth, they felt the weight of countless ages pressing upon them. The bark beneath their hands seemed to pulse with life, and whispers of ancient wisdom echoed in their minds. Suddenly, a voice boomed around them, seeming to come from the very wood of Yggdrasil itself. Who dares to seek the wisdom of Mimisbrunner? The voice demanded. Hildur and Leif clung to the roots, startled by the unexpected challenge. Gathering his courage, Leif called out, "We are Leif Erikson and Hildur, formerly of Asgard. We come on a quest given by Odin himself." There was a moment of silence, then the voice spoke again, softer this time. "Ah, the Valkyrie who chose love over immortality. Your tale has reached even the roots of Yggdrasil. But tell me, why do you seek the waters of wisdom?" Hildur stepped forward, her voice steady. "We seek to prove the worth of our love, to show that it can bridge the gap between mortal and divine." A rumbling laugh shook the great tree. "Love, you say? And what makes you think love has any place in the pursuit of wisdom?" Leif and Hildur exchanged glances, realizing this was yet another test. Hildur spoke again, choosing her words carefully. "Love and wisdom are not opposed, great Yggdrasil. It is through love that we gain the deepest understanding of ourselves and others. Is that not a form of wisdom?" The tree seemed to consider this. "An interesting perspective, young one. But wisdom often requires sacrifice. Are you prepared for what you might lose in gaining true knowledge?" Leif stepped up beside Hildur, taking her hand. "We have already sacrificed much for our love. Hildur gave up her immortality, and I have faced trials beyond mortal imagining. Whatever the cost, we face it together." There was a long pause, and for a moment, Hildur and Leif feared they had failed this final test. Then, slowly, the roots beneath their feet began to shift and part, revealing a hidden path downward. "Very well," the voice of Yggdrasil rumbled. Follow this path to Mimisbrunner, but be warned. The Well of Wisdom shows each seeker what they need to know, not necessarily what they wish to see. Hand in hand, Hildur and Leif descended the twisting path. As they went deeper, the air grew heavy with moisture and the scent of earth. Finally, they emerged into a vast cavern, at the center of which lay a still, dark pool. Mimisbrunner, Hildur whispered in awe. As they approached the well, its waters began to ripple and glow. Leif reached for the vial they had brought to collect the precious drop, but before he could dip it into the water, images began to form on the surface of the pool. They saw visions of their possible futures. Hildur, growing old as a mortal while Leif remained forever young, blessed or cursed with longevity by the gods. They saw themselves torn apart by the differences in their worlds, unable to fully bridge the gap between mortal and divine understanding. But they also saw moments of profound joy. Children with Hildur's eyes and Leif's smile, a home filled with love and laughter, and a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Tears streamed down Hildur's face as she watched these potential futures unfold. Is this the wisdom we seek? To know the challenges we will face? Leif wrapped an arm around her, his own eyes glistening. No, my love. I think the wisdom is in knowing that despite these challenges, our love is strong enough to face them all. As if in response to his words, a single luminous drop of water rose from the surface of the well. It hovered in the air before them, glowing with an inner light. Hildur carefully guided the drop into their vial, her hands trembling slightly. As soon as the drop was secured, they felt a shift in the air around them. The voice of Yggdrasil spoke once more, but this time it seemed to come from within their own minds. You have gained more than just a drop of water from Mimisbrunner. You have glimpsed the true nature of wisdom, the understanding that knowledge without love is empty, and that love without wisdom is blind. Carry this lesson with you always. As the voice faded, Hildur and Leif found themselves back at the base of Yggdrasil, the vial of water clutched tightly in Hildur's hand. They stood in silence for a moment, processing all they had seen and learned. Finally, Leif spoke, his voice filled with emotion. Whatever comes, Hildur, we face it together. The wisdom of Yggdrasil has shown us the challenges ahead, but it has also shown us the strength of our love. Hildur nodded, pressing close to him. Together, she agreed. With love as our guide and wisdom as our light, we can overcome anything. As they prepared to return to Midgard, to face Odin and hear his judgment, Hildur and Leif knew they had gained far more than just the completion of their final task. They had gained a deeper understanding of themselves, of each other, and of the very nature of love and wisdom. The trials set by Odin had tested not just their strength and courage, but the very essence of their bond. And in the shadow of Yggdrasil, the world tree that connected all realms, they had found that their love was a force as ancient and powerful as the tree itself, a bridge between worlds, capable of withstanding any storm. With hearts full of newfound wisdom and love reaffirmed, Hildur and Leif set out on the final leg of their journey, ready to face whatever judgment awaited them in Asgard. The golden halls of Asgard loomed before Hildur and Leif, their magnificence both awe-inspiring and intimidating. They had returned from their trials, battered and weary, but with a newfound strength burning in their hearts. The vial containing the drop of water from Mimisbrunner hung securely around Hildur's neck, a testament to their incredible journey. As they approached the great doors of Odin's hall, Leif squeezed Hildur's hand. Whatever happens, he said softly, know that every moment of this journey has been worth it. Our love has already conquered the impossible. Hildur nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Together, we can face anything. The doors swung open of their own accord, revealing the assembled gods and goddesses of Asgard. At the far end of the hall, Odin sat upon his throne, Hugin and Munin perched on his shoulders. The All-Father's single eye seemed to pierce through them as they walked forward. Hildur, once Valkyrie of Asgard, and Leif Erikson, mortal warrior of Midgard. Odin's voice boomed through the hall. You stand before us having completed the 3 tasks set before you. Speak, and tell us of your journey." Leif stepped forward, his voice clear and steady. "All-Father, we have done as you commanded. We retrieved the golden apples of Idun from the depths of Helheim, tamed the great wolf Fenrir, and brought back a drop of water from Mimisbrunner." Murmurs of amazement rippled through the assembled gods. Freya, standing near the throne, smiled encouragingly at the couple. Odin leaned forward, his eye glinting. "Impressive indeed. But tell me, what have you learned from these trials? What wisdom have you gained that makes your love worthy of breaking the barriers between realms?" Hildur and Leif exchanged glances, silently communicating in the way only those who have faced great adversity together can. Hildur spoke first, her voice filled with the wisdom they had gained. "We have learned, All-Father, that love is not just a feeling, but a force as powerful as any in the 9 realms. It has the strength to overcome death, to calm the fiercest beasts, and to grant wisdom beyond measure." Leif continued, "But we have also learned that love, to be true and lasting, must be tested. It must face adversity and grow stronger for it. Our trials have shown us the challenges we may face, but also the joy and strength we find in facing them together." Odin's expression remained impassive, but there was a glimmer of interest in his eye. "Fine words, but words alone are not enough. Show us this drop from Mimisbrunner. Let us see if you have truly gained wisdom." Hildur carefully removed the vial from around her neck and stepped forward to present it to Odin. As she held it out, the drop within began to glow, filling the hall with a soft, pulsing light. Gasps of wonder echoed through the assembly. Even Odin leaned forward, his eye wide with surprise. "Remarkable," he murmured. "The water responds to you, resonating with the wisdom you have gained. Perhaps there is more to your journey than I had anticipated." But just as hope began to bloom in Hildur and Leif's hearts, Odin rose from his throne, his expression growing stern. "You have indeed completed the tasks set before you," he declared. "But there is one final test you must face, a test that will truly prove the strength of your love and the wisdom you have gained." A hush fell over the hall as all waited to hear what this final challenge would be. Odin's voice was solemn as he spoke. "Hildur, you must choose. You may reclaim your place as a Valkyrie of Asgard, regaining your immortality and divine powers. Or you may remain mortal with all the joys and sorrows that entails and return to Midgard with Leif." He turned his gaze to Leif. "And you, mortal warrior, you must decide if you will accept Hildur's choice, whatever it may be. If she chooses immortality, will you let her go, knowing you can never truly be together? If she chooses mortality, can you bear the weight of knowing she gave up eternity for you?" The hall was silent, the tension palpable as all eyes turned to the couple. Hildur and Leif stood frozen, the magnitude of the choice before them almost overwhelming. Hildur's mind raced, memories of her immortal life as a Valkyrie flashing before her eyes. The glory of Asgard, the thrill of riding through the skies, the honor of serving Odin, all of it called to her. But then she looked at Leif, saw the love and trust in his eyes, and remembered all they had been through together. Leif, for his part, felt the weight of Hildur's potential sacrifice pressing down on him. Could he truly ask her to give up eternity for a mortal life that would seem but a blink of an eye to the gods? As the moment stretched on, the assembled gods began to murmur, wondering if this final test would prove too much for the couple. Finally, Hildur took a deep breath and stepped forward. Her voice rang out clear and true as she addressed Odin and the entire hall. "All-Father, gods and goddesses of Asgard, I have made my choice." She turned to Leif, taking his hands in hers. "My love, the wisdom we gained from Yggdrasil showed us that our path would not be easy. But it also showed us the beauty and strength of our love." Leif nodded, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Whatever you choose, Hildur, know that my love for you is eternal, transcending even death itself." Hildur smiled, then turned back to face Odin. "I choose mortality, All-Father. I choose a life with Leif, with all its joys and sorrows, its triumphs and challenges. For I have learned that true immortality lies not in an endless existence, but in the legacy of love we create." A collective gasp went through the hall, followed by a murmur of amazement. Even Odin seemed taken aback by the conviction in Hilder's voice. Leif stepped forward to stand beside Hilder, his voice strong and clear. "And I accept the gift of Hilder's choice with humility and gratitude. I vow to spend every day of our mortal lives honoring the sacrifice she has made and nurturing the love that has proven strong enough to bridge realms." As their words echoed through the hall, the drop of water from Mimisbrunner began to glow even brighter, its light enveloping Hilder and Leif in a warm, golden aura. It was as if the wisdom of Yggdrasil itself was affirming their choice. Odin slowly sat back on his throne, his expression unreadable. The entire hall held its breath, waiting for the Allfather's judgment on this final, most crucial test. The golden halls of Asgard fell into a hushed silence as all eyes turned to Odin. The Allfather sat motionless on his throne, his single eye studying Hilder and Leif with an intensity that seemed to pierce through to their very souls. The couple stood hand in hand, their hearts racing but their resolve unwavering. Finally, Odin rose from his throne, his voice resonating through the hall. "Hilder, once Valkyrie of Asgard, and Leif Erikson, mortal warrior of Midgard, you have faced trials that would have broken lesser beings. You have shown courage, wisdom, and a love that transcends the boundaries of realms." He paused, and for a moment, a hint of a smile played at the corners of his mouth. "In all my long years, I have rarely witnessed a bond as strong as yours. Your choice, Hilder, to embrace mortality for love, and your acceptance of that choice, Leif, speak to a depth of understanding that many immortals never achieve." Freya stepped forward, her eyes shining with approval. "Allfather, if I may speak?" At Odin's nod, she continued, "The love between Hilder and Leif is a rare and precious thing. It has the power to bridge our worlds in ways we have not seen before. Surely this is worthy of your blessing?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled gods and goddesses. Thor's booming voice rose above the rest. "They have proven their worth 1,000 times over. Let them have their happiness." Odin raised his hand and silence fell once more. He fixed his gaze on Hilder and Leif. "You have indeed proven yourselves worthy, but know this. The path you have chosen will not be an easy one. The union of mortal and divine, even a former divine, carries with it great challenges." Leif spoke up, his voice steady. "We understand, Allfather. Our trials have shown us the difficulties we may face, but they have also shown us the strength we possess when we stand together." Hilder nodded in agreement. "Whatever challenges lie ahead, we face them willingly, knowing that our love is strong enough to overcome them." Odin descended from his throne, approaching the couple. As he drew near, the air around them seemed to crackle with divine energy. "Very well," he said, his voice softening. "Hilder, once Valkyrie of Asgard, and Leif Erikson, mortal warrior of Midgard, I, Odin Allfather, do hereby grant you my blessing." A collective gasp went through the hall, followed by cheers and applause from the assembled gods. Freya beamed with joy, while Thor let out a whoop of celebration that shook the very foundations of Asgard. Odin raised his hands and a soft golden light enveloped Hilder and Leif. "With this blessing I bind your fates together. Hilder, though you have chosen mortality, a spark of your divine nature shall remain. It will not grant you immortality, but it will allow you to serve as a bridge between our worlds." He turned to Leif. "And you, brave warrior, I grant you the strength and wisdom to support Hilder in her new role. Your life together shall be long and fruitful, and your descendants shall carry the legacy of your love for generations to come." As the golden light faded, Hilder and Leif felt a warmth spreading through their bodies, a tangible manifestation of Odin's blessing. They turned to each other, their eyes filled with tears of joy. "My love," Leif whispered, cupping Hilder's face in his hands. "We did it. Our love has truly bridged the gap between realms." Hilder's smile was radiant as she replied, "And now we have a lifetime to explore all that means." Their kiss was met with another round of cheers from the assembled gods. As they parted, Freya approached, her eyes twinkling with mischief and joy. "Well done, my dears," she said, embracing them both. "You've given us quite the tale to tell for ages to come. Now, I believe a celebration is in order." At her words, the somber hall of judgment transformed. Tables laden with feast foods appeared, and the sound of music filled the air. Gods and goddesses crowded around Hildur and Leif, offering congratulations and well wishes. As the celebration began in earnest, Odin pulled the couple aside for a private word. "Remember," he said, his voice low and serious, "with great blessing comes great responsibility. The bridge you have forged between our worlds is precious and fragile. Guard it well." Hildur and Leif nodded solemnly. "We will, Allfather," Hildur promised. "We'll honor your blessing in all we do." Odin's expression softened once more. "Then go. Enjoy the celebration. Tomorrow you return to Midgard to begin your new life together." As they rejoined the festivities, Hildur and Leif felt a profound sense of joy and purpose. They had faced impossible odds, overcome divine trials, and emerged stronger than ever. Their love had not only survived the challenges set before them, but had flourished, proving itself worthy of godly blessing. The night passed in a blur of laughter, music, and heartfelt conversations. Gods who had once seemed distant and unreachable now treated Hildur and Leif as honored guests, eager to hear every detail of their extraordinary journey. As the celebration began to wind down, Hildur and Leif found a quiet moment alone on one of Asgard's glittering balconies. Below them stretched the magnificence of the god realm, a sight few mortals had ever beheld. Leif wrapped his arms around Hildur from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Are you ready for our next adventure, my love?" he asked softly. Hildur leaned back into his embrace, a contented smile on her face. "With you by my side, I'm ready for anything. Our love has already accomplished the impossible. Just think of what we can do with a lifetime together." As they stood there, bathed in the ethereal light of Asgard, Hildur and Leif knew that this was not an ending, but a beginning. Their trials had forged a love strong enough to unite realms, and with Odin's blessing, they were poised to embark on a journey that would leave an indelible mark on both the mortal and divine worlds. The tale of the Valkyrie who chose love over immortality, and the mortal warrior who proved worthy of divine blessing would be told and retold for generations to come. But for Hildur and Leif, the greatest adventure was just beginning. A lifetime of love, growth, and bridging the gap between worlds one day at a time.